In January of 2015, Techland and Warner Bros. Released what would become a classic staple of the zombie gaming community, being the critically acclaimed and beloved Dying Light. This awesome fusion between Dead Island and parkour not only gave fans of the undead genre an amazingly unique sandbox experience, centered around the freedom of movement associated with free running, but one which was also noted for having a uniquely terrifying nighttime experience. Now, given the nightmarish horrors of Dying Light's Harran Virus, and its special infected, I figured y'all would want to hear my take on whether or not the average person could survive such a cataclysmic zombie outbreak. As such, I'll be breaking down the Harran Virus and its special infected for both games, while then giving you my conclusion on your odds of survival. So sit back and relax in your safe house, as this is going to be a thrilling thought experiment.
Okay, I'm ready. Oh, he's got a weapon. What the fuck? Holy shit. Oh.
Being a variation of rabies, the Harran virus is primarily spread through the exchange of bodily fluids. That's why the primary vector of infection is through bite wounds, scratches, lacerations, and the ingestion or exposure of infected fluids via open wounds or mucous membranes. As such, under normal circumstances, it's highly unlikely that such a virus would spread globally, as infection explicitly requires physical contact in the vast majority of situations. But the Harran virus is not your typical bloodborne pathogen. More on that later. That being said, those infected with the Harran virus will experience severe flu-like symptoms, seizures, headaches, nausea, sudden loss of consciousness, and overall weakness when they're at stage 1 of infection. Before long, victims of this contagion will experience hallucinations, while their skin will begin to turn pale. Veins may be noticeably visible, and the host's eyes may turn somewhat red before finally turning into a viral. That being said, the Harran virus does not react well to UV light, and with the use of the fictional suppressant antizin, the infection's progression can be completely halted. Another observation that's worth noting is the fact that the infected don't seem to like large bodies of water, considering that they avoid it like they avoid UV light, hence suggesting that this virus is still somewhat like the rabies virus in that regard. Despite all of this, scientists eventually created a vaccine for this virus, essentially saving the world. But eventually, the Harran virus is mutated by a bunch of fucking morons working for the global relief effort, all because they wanted to weaponize the pathogen for the purpose of profiting off of military interests. This new strain, known as the tachy-transmissive Harran virus, or THV, is noticeably deadlier and far more infectious than the initial Harran virus. We know that this virus has a far shorter incubation period than the original contagion, while also spreading much faster. The virus essentially degrades human DNA and results in the following 4 stages, being flu-like symptoms for stage 1, high fevers and physical deterioration in stage 2, further physical degradation accompanied by seizures, muscle spasms, and the loss of speech in stage 3, and finally stage 4, where genetic mutations become irreversible. As it was for the original virus, THV can be suppressed with the use of antizin, although unlike the original, one can halt the progression of the virus by merely basking in UV light for prolonged periods of time. It should be noted that both methods only really work prior to stage 4. That being said, both viruses can cause insane mutations that turn normal infected persons into special infected freaks, and that's precisely what I'm going to be covering in the next segment.
Oh wait.
Oh shit! Well, how am I gonna get there?
I believe in you.
I'm here.
We've got cup.
So I think it'd be safe to say that it's fairly obvious that one's odds of survival will be highly dependent on the sort of zombies they'd be dealing with. And unfortunately for all of us, the Harran virus forces us to deal with a literal cornucopia of pain, delivering to us a laundry list of special infected that makes survival incredibly difficult. When someone initially turns, they become a fucking viral. These freaks are fast as fuck and are capable of parkour, and they actually seemingly retain some of their fucking sentience, often aiming to preserve their well-being by dodging attacks, avoiding deadly or harmful obstacles, and also occasionally begging for mercy when you're beating their ass. These literal tweakers are also attracted to loud noises, often rushing to the origin point of any loud source of noise. Oh, and here's a scary thought for all of you. Virals know how to open doors. Now, if these virals are left outside for a considerable amount of time, thus being exposed to plenty of UV radiation, they become biters. These shambling monstrosities care little for their own well-being and cannot run. They are pretty durable though. Now, some of them, for some reason, emit toxic gas and others are noticeably bulkier than others. Some of these biters get a stat buff at night as well, becoming night walkers. These assholes will suddenly learn how to run and climb like a viral, while literally roaring to alert all other infected of your presence. That being said, if a viral stays secluded in the dark, away from UV radiation for prolonged periods of time, they may just turn into a volatile. These godless marauding killing machines are stupidly durable, stupidly fast, can fucking parkour better than you, will call for help, and are strong as fuck. But they only come out at night and are easily repelled by UV light, which is a relief. But you want to know what isn't a relief? They can seemingly reproduce somehow in volatile nests, which, by the way, is not a location you ever want to visit during the day. Volatiles also have members of their tribe known as alphas, who are just your typical volatile, but fucking stronger. And then there's the tyrant volatile in Dying Light 2, who's even worse than the aforementioned freaks. If a kid gets infected, they turn into a screamer, who screeches so loudly it literally causes you pain, while also attracting virals, volatiles, and biters. Some of the infected will mutate into goons, or strong jerks who will bitch slap you and smash you with their rebar hammer. Then there's the demolishers, or Dying Light's version of the tank. This big fella will run you down and blow your back out, and God forbid you ever run into both of these variants at one time. The average person will literally get bench pressed by these bodybuilder infected. Then there's the frog, or spitter, or whatever the fuck it's called. This ugly creature will just spit corrosive acid at you, while slowly running away like a bitch. There's even a special infected, whose entire job is just to run away. And who could forget about the Alu Akbar infected who can literally blow you to kingdom come? And there's also all of the updated variants from Dying Light 2, many of which aren't all that different from the original game's special infected. But there are some notably different variants, like Dying Light's own Charger and Hunter variants. All in all, the number of threats presented to us by the Harran virus makes survival extremely difficult because each special infected requires different approaches to avoid, escape, and/or to terminate said special infected.
Okay.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay.
What, totally well worth the wait, isn't it? Yeah, just wait.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What the hell was that?
Oh my god.
I found Jeff, and the gas is back on.
That's a relief. Told you,
Is he
he's
fucking dead?
irreplaceable.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid you're gonna have to find a replacement.
Yeah, he's dead. Oh god.
Given all of the information we've covered thus far, could you realistically survive a Harran virus outbreak? Well, within the lore of the first game, the virus spread slowly enough to allow the military to quarantine all of Harran behind an Attack on Titan-styled wall, which is, to be frank, an impressive engineering feat. But during the time skip, between Game 1 and Game 2, the tacky transmissive Harran virus managed to cause all of humanity to fall, which is somewhat mysterious to me given that the virus requires physical contact and that the infected aren't particularly fond of large bodies of water. Nor does the outbreak occur everywhere simultaneously. There's a clear and distinct epicenter to both outbreaks. Yet it somehow spread across vast oceans undetected when it couldn't even spread beyond the confines of a quarantined third world city. But given that symptoms don't occur instantly, I guess it's fairly plausible for this virus to make it across a transatlantic or trans-Pacific flight undetected, which again is highly suspect to me given that countries would shut down their borders pretty quickly and would likely be screening refugees at every conceivable port of entry and exit. But then again, that might not happen in lesser developed nations. So I guess it's possible, for example, for the virus to land in, say, Venezuela, via an infected person who has not yet developed symptoms, and then for it to spread like crazy until one day massive hordes make it to and break through the US border, assuming they somehow manage to cross the Panama Canal. It's also possible that countries felt safe with the existence of the initial vaccine for the original virus. That is, until it became pretty apparent that said vaccine was useless. Who fucking knows? All I know is that the second game's lore makes no sense to me, from an epidemiological perspective at least. Realistically speaking, neither variant of the Harran virus can bring humanity to its knees. It would seriously require mass incompetence at an epic scale for such an outcome to actually occur. I will say this though, aside from the issue of global contamination, I'd say whatever country or continent this pathogen breaks out in is essentially cooked. Every initial infected person is a viral, and once the special infected begin to increase in numbers, one's odds of survival will begin to plummet. Once society breaks down and the power grid goes out, volatiles will be feasting on non-infected persons, while reproducing in their nests. Like, you literally need UV lights and a source of reliable electricity in order to reliably survive the night. Without such resources at your disposal, you'd have to be incredibly stealthy and low profile to avoid being detected by ravenous apex predators who are actively hunting for prey every night. And sure, you don't need headshots to kill these infected, but the fact that virals can open doors, climb shit, and dodge attacks makes the initial outbreak insanely dangerous. You literally need to know parkour just to have a chance at surviving. Even using a firearm will sound the dinner bell for your location. And if you come face to face with a demolisher or even a goon, a gun might not even save you. They're literally armored with hardened skin and dense muscle fibers. And God forbid you fail to notice a spitter sniping you with corrosive acid. That may, in itself, be infectious. Also, for some reason, these infected persons don't seem to starve or die of dehydration. If they did, the Harran quarantine zone would have been infection-free after some time, yet that never fucking happened. So unless humanity kills all of the infected, they will remain in our world, with some turning into volatiles that can reproduce and hence replenish their numbers. Things could even be worse if we can get confirmation on whether or not the infected, and volatiles in particular, feed on livestock or wildlife. Now, in order to survive in such a scenario, one would need access to a reliable source of electricity, UV lights, the ability to maintain said electrical systems, and a sturdy, soundproof shelter, which is not easy to physically scale or climb over. Even the countryside wouldn't be safe, as volatiles will eventually expand their territory into remote areas for the purpose of creating volatile hives. We literally see this happen in Dying Light's The Following DLC. No place is truly safe when you're contending with predators that actively hunt people every fucking night. Hell, the virals hunt for you during the day and night. So aside from needing electricity, UV lights, a mini fortress, and soundproofing, one could potentially survive by digging a large moat around your community or base. You could also survive by living at sea or by living in extremely remote areas that are highly unlikely to be visited by wandering virals and volatiles. Oh, and I almost forgot this, but you can actually use infected guts or blood to camouflage yourself from the infected in the same way you could in The Walking Dead. So yeah, that's a neat little survival tip. Sadly, for most of you viewing this, these options will not be available to you if the outbreak occurs in your region. Because on top of having to contend with all of these problems, you'd also have to deal with the inevitable localized collapse of society in your area, which not only would entail supply shortages for essential goods, but would also mean the collapse of energy infrastructure and the manifestation of desperate and violent survivors who might take your shit. Long story short, your odds of survival are pretty fucking dim. By the way, if you'd like to see me play Dying Light, let me know in the comments section. As a matter of fact, I recently played the game with my good friend McSpoonz. If you want to see us dick around while he explains why Dying Light is such a good fucking game, feel free to check out his channel, which is linked in the description of this video. And since we're on the topic of my boy McSpoonz, how's about we hear from him right now on this topic? My man, do you think you could survive this crazy-ass zombie outbreak?
That's a good question, Captain Gold. And let me put it eloquently. No. There's no fucking way I could. The main reason I would not survive this zombie apocalypse in particular is while I also don't have any of the fundamental skills necessary to survive a zombie outbreak, like hunting and building a shelter, I lack the most crucial skill that is a necessity when it comes to the Harran virus. Parkouring. I can't climb for dick and a half. I can barely touch my toes, so if I, by God, manage to climb up some kind of building to gain elevation against these monsters, and they start climbing after me, I'm fucked. And Captain Gold, that's just the daytime. I don't know if you know this, but at nighttime, all the fucking monsters come out. I'm talking about monsters that are faster than me, stronger than me, and way more durable. At the very least, we both react to UV light in the same way. Look, I would love to stand here and tell you all the ways I could tackle this virus, but no. No fucking way. I, you, and everyone else is dead as hell. Sorry to end that on a bleak note. Unless you can do parkour, then I'll listen.
Anyways, if you like this sort of content, please like, share, and fucking subscribe to the channel. Click the bell as well, that way you may be notified when I publish a new video. And remember that you may opine anytime if you feel so inclined, down in the comments section. I'm Captain Gold, and I hope to see you in my next Gold Standard video.